Hi everyone, welcome to our annual I Want to Be a Veterinary Profession weekend. My name is Jaina Kesa and I'm the Vice Chairperson. I'm also in charge of community engagement as well as social media. With me standing here today is Prof. Dietmar Hom, who will take you further.
Good afternoon everybody, thanks Jaina. And thanks to the OPVSC for arranging and planning and doing all the hard work behind the scenes for the I Want to Be a Vet Professional weekend. As last year, this is going to be an online event for the whole of the weekend, today and tomorrow. And I hope we're going to see a lot of you and hear a lot from your side. And we're going to do our best from this side to give you a fantastic show. So welcome to the Faculty of Veterinary Science of the University of Pretoria. We are here at the Onderstepoort campus of the university, or OP as we call it. It's the best place to be for a student. Wonderful courses that we offer in veterinary science and veterinary nursing as well as a number of postgraduate courses if you want to keep going. Of course, you're going to keep going, right?
Of course. After this, I have to.
Yes. And a wonderful student life here as well. We've got our own campus. It's quite a nice, wide campus. We've got our own farm here. As you can see, all the animals with us here today. We've got real animals as well, by the way. We are here in the skills lab at the moment where the students learn skills, hands-on skills, and you will see a lot of that over the weekend. You will also have a chance to ask questions about getting into the programs here at OP so that you understand how that process works, and any other questions you want to ask about animals or diseases. The students know all the answers, so you might as well ask them.
We hope we know. Thank you so much, Prof. There will be an option, a chat option in the box, and we will be taking questions towards the end. So what we're going to be playing now is the introduction video. This is a video done by the OPVSC. So what the OPVSC is, it stands for Onderstepoort Para-Veterinary and Veterinary Student Committee. And we are students of various years and various degrees. So we're either doing vet science or we're doing vet nursing. And we are a student committee that bridges the gap between students and faculty. So next we're going to be playing the introduction video that we have made for you. Welcome to our annual I Want to Be a Veterinary Profession weekend. This initiative was started with the main aim of exposing high school learners to the veterinary profession. We hope that one day we will therefore have more veterinary professions in communities.
During the course of the day, we will be showing videos based on our curricula taught at Onderstepoort campus. This includes animal handling and certain facilities. We will be taking questions at the end of the session. Good day. My name is Tulani Saizi, and today I'll be one of the co-hosts. I have great news for you. Did you know by registering to this event, you stand a chance to win one of our 10 take-a-load vouchers worth 240 Rand. Yes, that's right. So everyone viewing us today stand a chance to win a take-a-load voucher for 240 Rand. But I want to make things a little bit more interesting. So if you want to increase your chances for winning, I need you to do a simple, interesting task with us. So all you need to do is take a picture of yourself, or you can take a picture of yourself with your pet, or you can take just a picture of your lovely pet. And you have to tweet it on Twitter, and you have to hashtag I want to be a vet. So I want to be a vet, two in numerals. I want to be a vet. And another thing is, to stand a chance to win, you have to be with us up until the end of the program. So we're looking forward to have you throughout this program. Upcoming next is a Carol video. I hope you enjoy it, and just sit back, grab a cup of tea or water and enjoy. Good day. My name is Tulani Saizi. Quick fact, cattle are social animals. They even have so-called nurseries, where mother cows take turns to watch over calves in an extensive farming system. Himaira Mohammed, the chairperson of 2021 OPVSC, will be talking you through the basic behavior characteristics of cattle and their injection sites.
I will be explaining how to herd cattle and also the different injection sites we use in them. We need to take into account the different herding behavior characteristics of cattle. Firstly, we will discuss vision. Cattle's eyes are positioned on the side of their heads. Wide panoramic vision allows the animal to have a view of 330 degrees on the side and narrow binocular vision of 25 to 50 degrees in front of them. The area directly behind them is a blind spot. This means they cannot see us if we are directly behind them and should never be approaching cattle from behind. They can be startled and react by kicking. The fight or flight zone is the next item on the list we will need to consider. The flight zone is also called the animal's personal space. If we move inside the zone, the animal will move away, and when we back off, the animal will stop moving. The size of this zone depends on how tame or wild the animal is. It is more difficult to move very tame cattle because they have almost no flight zone. Next is points of balance. There are 2 points of balance. Looking from the side, it will be behind the shoulder. From the front, it is the center of the head. When we move close to a cow confined in a chute or against a fence, our position in relation to the cow's shoulder will affect the direction in which it will move. The imaginary line through the shoulder is the point of balance. If we go behind the line, the cow moves forward. And if we go in front of the line, the cow moves backwards. If we are moving towards the front of the cow, it will move backwards or turn away. From the front, we can deflect the cattle sideways by moving either side of an imaginary line drawn through the middle of the animal's length. With regards to the injection sites we use in cattle, always use a clean syringe and needle when performing any injection. We do intramuscular IM injections in the neck, gluteus, semimembranous, or semitendinosus muscle. The neck muscle is the preferred site, and it is important not to inject between the semimembranosus and semitendinosus muscles. We desensitize the area first by tapping hard with the side of the hand before injecting, and always aspirate to check that there is no blood before depositing. Subcutaneous, subcut injection sites are mostly used as most vaccinations are administered this way. Subcutaneous injection sites are any area with loose skin, for example, the neck or behind the shoulder. We do not need to aspirate before injecting. Lastly, we do intravenous or IV injections. We use the jugular or neck vein for large volumes of medication or blood collection. The coccygeal vein, also known as the tail vein, is used for small samples of medication and diagnostic sampling. We aspirate before injecting to confirm that we are in the vein.
So the next video that we will be showing you is the sheep video. But before we get to that, we'd like to show you a tweet that we received from Susanna. Thank you very much for participating in this. You now stand a great chance at winning one of the prizes. The prizes, just so you guys know, are Take-A-Lot vouchers, and they will be drawn towards the end of the program. Okay, so up next we have our sheep video, which we will be playing now. Hi, I am Jaina Kesa. Did you know that sheep have rectangular pupils, allowing for an almost 320-degree vision? Nishan Pillay, the Vice Chairperson of OPVSC 2021, will be taking you through the basic clinical examination as well as anemia in sheep.
In this video, we will explain how to safely catch a sheep to do a clinical examination and also estimating anemia. Firstly, we will show you how sheep are caught and handled. We catch the hind leg above the hock and gently pull the sheep out of the flock. We then transfer our hand to underneath the jaw. If the sheep is tame and does not run away, we place our hand underneath the jaw and reverse the sheep out. We need to ensure that we do not hold the throat, as this can obstruct the airway. We hold the sheep against our bodies. To move the sheep forward, we put pressure on the tail. We hold the chin upwards to stop the sheep and reverse it by holding the chin up higher. We can use our bodies to guide the sheep in the desired direction. It is important that we do not pull on the wool or catch the sheep below the hock. Next, we will show you how we set up and examine a sheep. We restrain the head of the animal with one hand by holding it underneath the jaw, with the thumb over the nose and the other hand holding the flank fold. Then we turn the head towards the flank, lift the flank and twist to set up the sheep. We cradle the sheep in a set-up position against our legs. We can now examine the nose, mouth, both eyes, both ears, as well as 8 claws. We also examine the belly for wool cover and then the udder if it is a ewe. To estimate the degree of anemia, we restrain the head by holding it underneath the jaw. We examine both eyes and look at the mucous membranes. We hold the FAMACHA scoring card close to the mucous membranes and note the color and level on the card that corresponds with the sheep's mucous membranes. The FAMACHA score ranges from 1, which are red mucous membranes, to level 5, which are very pale mucous membranes. We administer antiemetics to all animals that score under level 3. As you can see, this sheep will be a level 2, thus no dosing is required. The FAMACHA chart was designed by Dr. Fafa Milan, who is a South African production vet. We commonly perform FAMACHA during the Haemonchus catorchis period when we have a high worm burden. It is important that we look at both eyes when we want to estimate the degree of anemia.
That's my default. I mean, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
Yes.
Nice.
Well done.
Wow.
Hi everyone, I'm Taylor Hillier and I hold the Social and Culture and Community Engagement portfolios on OPVSC. I hope you all enjoyed that sheep video. So here on our Onderstepoort campus, we only have the Boerbokke breed of goats, which is mainly a South African meat goat. So we're going to now have a video on goats.
Hi, my name is Darina Basson, and today I will be running through a crash course on goats. We will focus on the main topics comparing goats to sheep. The behavior of sheep and goats are very similar to each other, but goats in general tend to show less social behavior than sheep do and tend to be more individualistic. Goats are more agile than sheep and are harder to contain with conventional fencing. Goats will dig holes underneath the fence or jump over the fence, which sheep do not do. Goats appear to develop a stronger bond with the caretaker and are seen as being friendlier than sheep. Goats, especially kids, vocalize a lot more than sheep do and will cry out loudly, even during non-painful procedures. Sheep do not vocalize often, even when sheared or being hurt. Goats are not as dependent as sheep on having other goats around them, so they can be worked with reasonably easy. Sheep and goats are both selective eaters, but goats show to be even more selective than sheep and prefer to browse. Sheep and goats do not display any nutritional wisdom, but they do select higher quality plants and higher quality plant parts. Both sheep and goats eat very short plant growth and will even dig up stems and roots, which gives them the undeserved reputation of being felt destroyers.
The following is an example of a body conditioning score chart to categorize the health of the goat. To do a body conditioning score, you look at the following landmarks: the ribs, the lumbar spine, and the pararectal fossa. For a body condition score of 1, the animal is emaciated. A body condition score of 3.5 is an ideal score for a goat. The ribs is not easily visible, but can be palpated. The score is ideal for goats that are in breeding and in parturition. A body condition score of 5 is seen as obese. To determine the age of a goat, you look at their adult teeth. 2-tooth is 1 year old, 4-tooth is 2 years old, 6-tooth is 3 years old, and 8-tooth is 4 years and older.
That was a nice video. I hope you learned 1 or 2 things about goats. Before we move on to the next video, I'll have some tweets from CRB, Nico, and Brian. Thank you so much for posting your pictures, and I'm encouraging everyone to keep on posting the tweets, keep on bringing those pictures. We love to see them, and we like to see more of your pets as well. Upcoming is our horse video, and I hope you're gonna be interested in this video and you're gonna have fun watching the video, because I'm a horse person. I like horses a lot, especially horse riding, etc. So have fun. Hi, my name is Tulani Saizi. Long ago, horses were used in war, for hunting, and as a means of transport. However, times have changed. They are now handled with much more care. Allow me to present to you Nadine Taylor, the social and cultural representative for OPVSC for 2021, who will be talking you through the basic equine practical handling.
When we approach a horse, we do it in a confident, safe manner while informing the animal of our presence. We need to pay special attention to the body language of a horse. For example, if the ears are flattened and pinned back, it indicates possible aggressive behavior. Ears that are facing forward indicate friendliness or an interest in what's going on. When the horse is swishing its tail, it can be a sign of irritation or even an anti-insect response, while tail raising can mean intention to move or arousal. Horses are usually trained to be approached and handled from the left-hand side. When we handle a halter and lead, it should be kept neatly and held correctly to ensure quick application. We should put on the halter in a fast, safe, and smooth manner. Afterwards, we ensure it fits correctly by applying the 2-finger and fist rule, which is 2 fingers above the muzzle, 2 from the facial crest, and a fist below the jaw. When we lead a horse, we do it from the left-hand side. We stand at the horse's shoulder or neck, looking forward. Both our hands on the lead rope without wrapping it around our fingers or hands, and we gather the excess rope. Next, we will explain how to lift a horse's leg and clean its hooves. We start at the front leg, keeping contact with the horse, and slide our hand from the shoulder down to the foot. To make sure the horse picks up its foot, we gently apply pressure on the flexor tendons or sesamoids.
It stabilizes you, so if the horse walks or tries to move, then you move with it. You've got good contact there with the shoulder.
So you can control
it makes the horse feel more comfortable as well, and they can rest on you a little bit as well. And if you do this, it's not on your back, otherwise you get back injury, so it's more on your knee. You put the weight on your knee.
Once the horse has picked up its foot, we grasp the pastern or hoof wall and clean it out with a hoof pick. Remember to always use the hoof pick to clean away from you, as you can injure the frog of the hoof. When we are done, we carefully lower the foot to the ground. The hind leg is slightly different.
It's very important to start at the front, so the horse must know you here, and what I do is touch the horse with my body as well, not only my hands. And then go to the back and I get my knee there already, and then step backwards. So now she's immobilized, so just pass me the hoof pick. I can't pull one. And then when you clean, you always clean in that direction, away from you. Otherwise the hoof pick gets stuck in the frog there. So this way you clean it out without moving. And then when you let go, you must always put it down, don't drop it.
For participating with us. We have noted all your tweets as well as all your tags. Please continue to tag us. So the Student Committee OPVSC, our Instagram is @OPVSC, OPVSC. Please tag us in all your posts, and as well as tag UP on Twitter. So the hashtag #IWant2, the numeral 2, be a vet. I'll now hand over to Taylor.
I just want to say thank you very much to the people who have been so far tagging I want to be a vet. So thank you to Shanae, a beautiful photo of her bull terrier. You're welcome to give us the names of your pets, the ages, just keep some curiosity going. Also to Zoe, a picture of her. No, I'm sorry, not sure about the breed, but thank you to Zoe, and then Loratu as well for a picture of her cat. After this, we have a 5-minute break where we will be continuing at past. Hi everyone again. I hope you all had a good break and managed to get yourself something to drink. We will now be having an interactive session with the one and only Dr. Kate May. She's our manager of our skills lab, where young veterinary professionals are made, where they get to learn practice skills for their future careers. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Taylor. Hi, everybody. So obviously, there's a lot of stuff that you need to do on animals. But what we have in the skills lab, and you've seen some of our models here, is that you can practice on the models before you move on to the live animals. And obviously, there's a lot of you guys, and there are quite a few animals that we have. So we really want you to sort of perfect certain skills before we let you loose onto real animals. So obviously, it's a bit difficult to show you all the things that we can do on the skills lab models. But as you can see, they're pretty lifelike. A lot of them. And that really helps students to learn the skill in sort of the best environment. So I'm going to show you a couple of ropes and sort of knots that we have to use as a veterinarian. And I'm sure that you guys can use them now. And if there are any sort of scouts in the audience, then please let us know how you're doing. So one of the first things we need to learn how to do is a halter tie, because you cannot tie your horse or your cow to the crush, and if it goes down or if it tries to jump out of the crush, it can hurt itself a lot if it doesn't have a quick release knot on the halter. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I don't know if you guys all want to grab a rope, or you can grab a shoelace or whatever you have at hand. Okay, so with the halter tie, we need to have the short end in your dominant hand. Okay, so if you're left-handed or right-handed, have the short end in your dominant hand. Then we cross the short end over the long end, okay, and then just make a small little loop like that. Right. Then the little tail from the short end, we want to pull back through the loop that you've just made and pull that nice and tight. Okay. Then you can pull on the long end, okay, and this is the end that's going to be attached to your horse or your cow. And you can see here that it's a quick release. So if the animal starts getting upset or trying to jump out the crush or whatever, you can just pull the short tail end and it's going to come away so the animal can get out. Okay, so that's obviously really important if you have a fractious animal or an animal that's gone down or something in the crush. Because honestly, nothing becomes as tight when you've got sort of 800 kilos of cow attached to the end of it than a knot that isn't a quick release knot. Now we use exactly the same principle if we are going to be doing what we call a tail tie. And the tail tie is incredibly useful if you are doing either any work sort of on the rear end of an animal, and as veterinarians, I think you probably know by now we do a lot of work on the rear end of animals. But if you want to tie the tail out the way, so for a calving or a foaling, for instance, or if you're doing artificial insemination, it's really useful not to have the tail in your way, sort of swishing you in the face all the time. So the tail tie uses a very similar principle to the quick release knot that I just showed you. So I'm going to show you in the horse, but it works exactly the same in the cow. So we need to find the tail bone. And yes, animals do have a bone in their tail. So, and it depends on the species as to how far down it goes. So we're going to find the tailbone. Then you're going to put your rope across the top, just by the tailbone, and then fold the tail up, like so, and hold it again in your dominant hand. Okay. Sticking out your index finger, we're going to go around our index finger, around the tail, and then tuck that short end back through the loop that you've made. Okay, and once again, pull the long end. And then we can go and tie that. Often it's easier to tie it to the animal, okay, because if the animal jumps out, then it takes its tail and the rope with it. But you can also tie it to the crush with a quick release knot that you've just learned about. And then again, if the animal starts getting upset or anything, you just pull the short end, and that's quick release, and the animal can carry on its way. Okay, so that's what we call the tail tie. Another knot, again, using very similar principles to the quick release knot, is a leg lift. So obviously with horses, we can teach them to lift up their legs for us when we need to clean out the hoof, or if we need to check if there's any abscesses or any problems with the hoof. It's a bit more tricky with cows. Okay, so cows obviously not quite as athletic, shall we say, as horses are. So the other thing about cows is that when we're dealing with them, we usually deal with them in a crush situation. So horses, we usually are sort of free, but a cow, because they're not handled nearly as much as horses are, we deal with them in a crush. Okay, so what we do is we make use of the crush, but equally we don't want to get ourselves hurt. And again, because because cows are not as used to being handled by humans, they can often squash us inadvertently because they really don't know their own strength. So when we're doing a leg lift in cows, we want to try and be as safe as possible. And interestingly, the way that the pelvis is designed in the different species, cows cow kick, so to speak, and that means that they're going to kick sideways and kick out at us. Okay, you're actually pretty safe standing directly behind a cow. Okay, obviously in a crush and if you've got bars in place, but you are relatively safe standing behind a cow, whereas you do not ever stand directly behind a horse, okay, because they barrel kick and they'll come backwards at you, and so that's quite dangerous. And it actually has to do with the shape of the pelvis, which is what you would learn in anatomy in your second year when you come to OP. So with the leg lift, we're quite safe at the shoulder of a cow. Okay, once you get behind the cow, you are a bit more dangerous because she can cow kick you, but you're quite safe by the shoulder. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get the rope around the cow's leg up right here in what we call the axilla, okay, which is the armpit of the cow. And again, we're going to have the short end in our dominant hand, okay, and we're going to cross that short end over, and exactly as we did with the halter tie, make a little loop, pull that through our little loop that we made, and then tighten it a little bit, and then we can actually drop the rope all the way down to what we call the fetlock of the cow. Okay, and the fetlock is interestingly sort of the knuckle of the cow, but again, you'll learn that in anatomy, how all the different joints and everything relate to people. Okay. And then what we would do is we would pull on the leg, and obviously my stationary cow here is not going to be lifting that up, but we would pull on the leg and push the cow to push its weight onto the other side of the cow, and then it would hopefully lift up its leg for us. And then we could use the bars of the crush to pull up the rope and lift the leg and hold it in place. Okay. The nice thing is with this knot is that when we finish and we release the leg, then our knot stays on the outside of the leg, what we call the lateral aspect of the leg, and then we can just quickly get out of the way, get out of danger's way by using that quick release knot. Okay, so that's quite a useful knot to learn in our cattle. All right, another knot that I'm going to show you is called the hog tie, and this is a knot that we would use to restrain an animal if we needed to do let's say surgery on the back legs, or if we needed to do a cesarean, for instance. And what I'm going to do is show you on our calf over here. This is not a knot that we usually use in calves, but it's just something that it's just easier for me to show you on one of our cows. Okay, so with this knot, you want to cross your arms first and then hold the rope so that it's in your hands like that. And when you uncross your arms, you'll see that there's one of your ropes is in front and one of your ropes is behind. Okay, so you can just do it like this, okay, but it looks more impressive if you cross over your hands like that. Then what you need to do is fold the two loops in front of each other, okay, and you'll see that there's only one way that this goes. If you do it this way, then the knot's going to come undone. Okay, so we're going to cross our two loops in front of each other to form a loop like that, okay, and then this loop is going to go over both legs of our cow. Let's pretend this is a cow that's lying down, and let's say this is a cow that we need to do a cesarean in. Then we would want to restrain her so that she couldn't kick us basically, and also that she obviously couldn't stand up while we're doing the cesarean, or whatever the surgery is for whatever interest that is. Then we'd pull the two pieces of rope apart, okay, and once they were nice and tight, we would then fold both pieces around the original rope. Okay, a few times, like that. And then we can tie this rope to an upright or a tree or whatever you happen to have at hand. You'll see a lot about veterinary is making a plan with what you have on hand. Okay, so that's quite a useful skill as well. And the nice thing about this knot is that even though the animal struggles, it won't get any tighter. Okay, which is really important because you want your animal to be safe and comfortable, but at the same time that your safety and anybody who's helping you safety is also really important. Okay, so that is what we would call the hog tie. Okay. Let's get our rope out here. So yeah, as you can see, very useful to have some ropes in your truck when you go doing things. All right, the next knot that I'm going to show you is called the bowline. Okay, and for any sailors out there, I'm sure you guys know how to do the bowline. And the bowline is very useful if you fall down a mountainside and need to be rescued by the Mountain Club of South Africa, for instance, or if you have an animal that is trapped in a manhole or something, or that you need a knot that is not going to get tighter. Okay, and we use this knot, as I said, to rescue any animals, but also if we need to do a temporary halter as well. Okay, so let me show you how you do that. So again, the short end in your dominant hand. Okay, then with your other hand, you're just going to make a little loop. Okay, and it's important to know to realize where the rope is on top of. Okay, so you actually want your rope to be on top of the lower piece, and you'll see why in a second. All right, then our short end is what we call the rabbit. Okay, and the rabbit is going to come out the hole. That's really important. Okay, not in the hole, out the hole. Okay, then round the lower piece of rope. Okay, and that's our tree in this scenario. Okay, and then it's going to go back in its hole from the top down. Okay, and then what you need to do is hold the rabbit, which is these two pieces of rope, the little parallel pieces there, and you're going to pull on the tree, which is that lower piece. Okay, and when you pull that, it forms this bowline, which is this type of knot. And this is a knot that won't get any tighter. So if somebody's rescuing you up a mountainside, this knot is not going to get any tighter. Or if you're pulling an animal out of a manhole or off a cliff face, then that's the knot that you want to use. And we're going to use exactly the same knot when it comes to the temporary halter. So often let's say we're doing a calving, okay, and we don't have a halter. Not all cows are amenable to having a halter put on their heads, okay? Cows do not like stuff happening around their heads. But let's say we needed to do that, or if you are, I don't know, driving along and you see a horse by the side of the road and you need to get a halter on it, this is the knot that you'd want to use. Okay, so we're going to put and we're using our cow for ease here, but we're going to put our rope around our cow like so, okay? Let's pull the short end. So the short end must be behind the cow. So again, we're just going to twist our hand up like so to make our loop. And you can see here that the rabbit's now in my left hand, but the lower piece of rope, which is our tree, is on the top of the cow. So rabbit comes out the hole, around the tree, and then back in the hole. Okay, and we're going to pull our little rabbit, which is this parallel piece of rope, and the tree like so. Okay, and then we formed a very nice bowline. Okay, and that's not going to get tighter, so it doesn't matter how hard I pull this, that knot's not going to get any tighter. Or how much the animal struggles, it's not going to get tighter. And then I'm going to basically just take the rope through that loop that I've made and put it over the nose. Okay, make sure that all my knots are nicely lined up. And there's your halter. Okay, nice and easy to use. If it's a cow, so this works very nicely in a horse because they have a very big sort of lower jaw that catches the rope. But in a cow, often what happens, this goes up into the eye. So to prevent that from happening, when we do our loop, we just put an extra twist in it, put that over the nose like that, and then it keeps the halter down below the eye. So we're not sort of half blinding our cow when we're trying to put it along. So again, very, very useful knot to know, and it has quite a lot of applications. Sometimes what we need to do is we need to make cows lie down. And unfortunately, as kindly as we ask them to lie down, they don't. So we can get them to do that by actually casting them with ropes. Obviously, we can also use different drugs as well to sedate them, and that will also help them to lie down. So let me show you how we do that. And for this as well, it's an enormous rope here, we would use the bowline as your original rope. Okay, so you can see this is quite a mean-ass rope here. Okay, so let's get this around our cow. Okay, pull the right rope here. And I know it sounds a bit far-fetched, but you can actually, if you get the knots in the right places on the pressure points, then you can actually get the animal to lie down. So exactly what we did before, we're going to do the bowline here. Okay, obviously just with a massive piece of rope. Okay. And then it depends, actually, interestingly, if it's a cow or a bull, as to where we put the ropes. Okay. So we want them to go here. Okay. I just need a helper. Yeah, sorry, Nashi, can I borrow you for a second there? Okay, so if you can stand on the other side of my cow, and we're going to pass you that rope there. Thanks very much. I'm going to go through here. What happens when you have an enormous piece of rope? Okay, so there's one pressure point up here by the what we call the withers of the horse, or the cow in this case. Okay, and then we're going to do the same on the sort of the lumbar spine. Thanks very much. Let's get that up and through here. Okay, and then we would stand, obviously you need to make sure that it's not over the udder or the testes or penis if it's a bull. And then we would go behind the animal and pull pressure onto this. You sometimes need quite a few people to be pulling on the end of the rope, and that putting pressure on the pressure points will actually make the animal lie down, which is quite useful. And then you can quickly do your hog tie so that it stays down. Okay, thanks, Nashi. We can probably just leave that there. All right. Something else I wanted to show you guys where we use knots is with carving. And carving, we actually use slightly different types of ropes. You just give this to Nashi over here. Sorry, Nashi, can I give that to you for a second? Thanks. Okay. So with these, you can use ski ropes, actually incredibly useful. And we do have special carving chains, but perhaps, can you hold that for 1 second? You might not have them. So then carving ropes, a ski rope is very useful. And one of the most useful things I learned at vet school was how to make a loop, actually, in a ski chain. So you can just use a normal pen, and you actually stick that down the middle of your ski rope. Okay? And then hold that carefully, and then you want to actually thread the end of the ski rope through that. Okay, and that forms a really tight knot. Okay, you just have to pull both pieces, not one of them, like I'm doing now. That will withstand a whole carving. Okay. So when we're doing a carving, and a carving is where we quite often asked to assist as veterinarians, and that's obviously to help the calf come out. And it depends a lot on what the cause is of the what we call the dystocia, so whatever the problem is with the calving. Sometimes the calf can be too big, or sometimes the leg is back, or the head is back, or something. So we have to first work out, what the problem is before we can actually resolve the calving. But let's say we've got our calf in a nice position now, and now we need to just give it a little bit of a helping hand. And we're going to put ropes on the legs, okay? And by doing that, we obviously don't want any big knots or anything around the vulva of the cow, because that can cause bruising and can cause abscesses and can cause a lot of trouble. So we want to try and work as sort of atraumatically as possible, which is where we're going to use this loop. And it's not this tiny loop we use. We actually make another loop like so. And you can see that's a nice slip knot that we're using. And we would put that basically over the fetlock of the calf, which is up here. Okay. And then we do what's called a half hitch. And a half hitch is just putting your hand on the rope and what we call supinating your hand. Okay, so supinating is like putting your hand so there's a little like a soup bowl. That's how I always remember it. Pronating is turning it the wrong way. So we want to supinate our hand, okay, and then basically shake the paw of the calf. And that's what's called a half hitch. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're actually spreading the pressure of this rope above and below the fetlock. Okay, so we're not going to cause, hopefully, any damage to the joints of the calf. There we are. Then we're going to use our rope handle. Okay, and again, we're going to put our hand on top, supinate our hand, okay, to make a loop, and then we're just going to pull that little piece of rope through to make a quick, like a slip knot there. Okay, and that gives us a very nice handle for the calf. Okay, and then we can get people to pull. Now she's going to show us in a second. Let's just do the other side. Okay, thanks very much. So exactly the same, got our loop already made. We're going to pull that through. Okay, we're going to put it above the fetlock, supinate our hand, shake the paw, put it below the fetlock. Okay, thanks very much. And then we're going to do that quick release knot again for this side. And the reason I say it's quick release is that as soon as you take this out, your knot's gone. Okay, so again, very nice not to have any knots. And then what you as the vet is going to do is going to have your helper, thanks so much, who's going to be, we're going to be pulling the calf. So we would alternate traction to pull the calf out. So we probably won't do it now, otherwise this poor calf's going to fall. But yeah, we would make sure it came out. It's important also to have some control over the head as well. Thanks, Nashi. Let's give you that. So obviously we would need a third rope, and we would use, again, that loop. We can put it behind the ears of the calf. We can get its ears out of here. And a lot of this you've got to do sort of blindly in the calf, in the cow at least. And we could put that into the mouth of the calf, and then we have some control over the head. We're not pulling on the head. We just want to make sure that it gets out the vulva and that we have a little bit of control. Okay, but mostly we're pulling on the legs. I think that's pretty much everything I have to tell you guys. I don't know if there are any comments or anything from that side. Anything to discuss? Send Nashi to go and check your Twitter feeds to see if there are any comments or any questions.
First question, can I have food in the office?
So I suppose the first thing you learned as a vet is that there's no such thing as lunch that normal people have ever. So you're often eating on the run, or you eat a lot of biscuits as a veterinarian, normally whilst having a quick biscuit while watching someone else do an operation. But yeah, so of course you can have food, but you don't often get a chance to eat it.
Okay. And the second question is, can a horse survive after losing a leg?
No. So the reason for that is that they're just so heavy, and they can't go three-legged. So even a very large breed dog like a German Shepherd would struggle. It can be done, but they would struggle a lot if they had a limb amputated, just because of their weight, and that obviously having one missing would put a lot of pressure on the other legs, and then that results in a lot of joint problems and things. So yeah, generally if it's a much lighter weight dog, then they can manage, and little breed dogs are usually fine.
And the next question is, why can't cows kick with the front legs?
It's how they are. Well, they can't really. They can stamp, so that's why you've got to make sure your feet are out the way. But they can't really kick as they can with the back legs, and the way that they kick actually depends on how their pelvis is designed. So that's why there's a difference between a horse and a cow. Interestingly, yeah, the cow kick. But be careful; never stand next to a cow.
Yeah.
You'll only get kicked once, but
I've actually been kicked by one. I was being naughty, and then I was trying to milk it without tying the ropes because I saw my grandfather do it, and I learned why we tied the cows.
Yes, yeah, that's another thing we call the hobbles, but you need to tie the back legs of cows so they don't kick you. Yeah, or kick the milk pail over.
The next question is, are stem cells kept for well-being of animals?
Sorry?
Stem cells, are they kept for the well-being of animals?
That's a very interesting question. Not currently, and not here. That's more sort of animal research that is being done, but it's not something that a general practice veterinarian would do. That would be a more specialist and probably lab animal work. Yeah.
And then can in vitro be performed in goats?
In goats, so we do a lot of embryo transfer, specifically in cattle. We can also do it in horses. I'm trying to think, it's not really so much done in our small stock because small stock are so fertile. So we tend to do a lot more AI, so artificial insemination. And with goats, we can also super ovulate them so that they have multiples, so twins or triplets. But generally, we don't do a lot of, there's not really the need. So the reason that we do embryo transfer per se is that it's to do what artificial insemination did for male animals. So one male animal with artificial insemination, whereas he could have mated one animal, one female animal, can now mate, 10, 20, however many. If it's a bull, we're getting 500 straws of semen from one bull ejaculate. So, that's 500 cows that he can...
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So with embryo transfer, it's kind of to try and do a similar thing for the female animal. So if you have a high-producing dairy cow or a very, valuable animal, you can super ovulate her and collect the embryos, and then you can put them into, donor animals. So I don't know how many you would get, 10 plus sometimes, but it depends on the animals. So yeah, good question. Yeah.
Actually, these guys are actually really smart. The last question is: can blood transfusion can be performed to save our friends' lives? I'm guessing they're talking about pets. From pet to pet.
Yes, definitely. We actually have blood donors that actually come to our hospital and donate blood, the dogs. And obviously it's quite species specific, so you can't put like dog blood into a horse or horse blood into a cow. It's got to be the same species, so you would... we have blood donors, and we collect the blood and we store the blood, and then if we have like a very bad tick bite fever case or something, the dog needs blood, or if it's been in an accident and needs blood, we can do that. We have cat donors as well. Horses and cattle, not so much, but definitely in our dogs we do that. Sometimes, for instance, with foals, so an interesting thing with farm animals is that they don't get any antibodies across the placenta in our farm animals, so they need colostrum. Sorry, I'm telling you stuff that you know. But they... So they have to get colostrum, and if they don't get colostrum, we can sometimes do a plasma transfusion, which is one of the sort of the products in blood. It's not the whole blood cells, but it's the plasma, and that's all the antibodies and things. So in horses, if, for instance, they don't get the correct colostrum, we can do a plasma transfer in them and stuff. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that is it from the questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Kate. I've never seen someone use a rope in so many different ways. I thought all you did was a stethoscope, but actually a rope saves lives.
Yeah, no, it's very useful. So yeah. Great, thanks everybody.
Hello everyone, my name is Naishi, and I'm in 4th year, and I'm the Treasurer and Secretary of the OPVSC. And it was such a great interactive video that we had with Dr. Kate, and we saw what she could do with the rope, and you guys will be learning that soon as you get here. So now, I just want to show you guys one of the models that we have here at the Skills Lab. Her name is Molly. She's a Jack Russell, and this is like the bandage. I think I remember her from my preg. I had to give her a bandage, so she's very close to my heart because this was who I was with in the exam, trying to remember all the different bandages and the patterns. So Molly was there for me during my stressful situations. So now, guys, I want to take you guys on a tour to our wildlife clinic. Yes, wildlife clinic. We actually do have one, so I hope you enjoy the video. Hello everyone, my name is Naishi Munyeki and this is Alex Jordan, and today we'll be taking a tour into our carnivore enclosures that are available at our wildlife clinic.
This clinic was officially opened during the faculty centenary year on the 6th of March 2020 by the Vice-Chancellor and Principal of the University of Pretoria, Professor Twane Coupe. The clinic consists of 2 buildings, one herbivore boma and one carnivore ward.
This is our carnivore enclosure where we safely house carnivores such as big cats while they undergo their treatment. This clinic exposes our vet and vet nursing students to excellent wildlife veterinary practice. It also enables us to gain hands-on knowledge in this field while working under renowned specialists.
This is the boma, which comprises 4 holding pens that can accommodate herbivores from small antelope all the way through to young rhinos. Our most famous patient to date was a white rhino named Oz, who was the first rhino to undergo a CT scan in South Africa. Wildlife training for veterinary students at our faculty includes a 5th year core module in African wildlife management and conservation, as well as a compulsory rotation at this clinic. Additionally, students have the option to choose rural and wildlife practice as an elective module in their 5th and 6th year of training.
Hey guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the wildlife tour at the wildlife clinic. So now we're about to take a 5-minute break and we will be back at 5 past.
Thank you very much. We have received a lot of your tweets. Just a reminder that you can still tweet us. You can also tag us on Instagram. It's at OPVSC, and OPVSC is the student committee. So we're just going to go through some of the tweets that we have received now. So I'm going to start off with Hayley, and we see that you have a newt, and it's very adorable. The colors are very, very pretty. Thank you very much for that. Okay, and then we have Yanika with your 2 dogs. We have Lola and Molly. I actually had a dog that looked like Molly, so very heartwarming for me. Thank you very much for that. We also have Junior Asanda just showing us the platform. Thank you for participating. And then lastly but not least, we have Franzel with Bubbles, who is a guinea pig. And yeah, that's just too adorable for words. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Tulani now.
I hope you are enjoying this event with us. And upcoming is an anatomy video. Before we start with the anatomy video, I just want to share a little bit of my experience when it comes to anatomy. So anatomy, you get to do it when you're in 2nd year, and this is one of the most interesting modules I've ever done here at OP. So there's a lot with anatomy. You get to learn all the bones, you get to learn all the structures of each and every species which we have, ranging from the cows, the horses, the dogs, you name it. So when you graduate as a vet, you'll be knowing all the bones. So I was excited, and I'm still excited, and I still remember couple of few bones, but yeah, it's an interesting module. So sit back and enjoy the anatomy video. Ever wondered what the skeletons of a cow, a dog, or even a horse look like? Well, come with me. Oh, I'm Tulani Saizi, and welcome to Anatomy Hall. Oh, the Anatomy Hall brings back memories and the left subclavian artery. Moving on to the equine heart. The equine heart. Wait, let's go back where it all started. Nancy Morrison, the transformation representative of OPVSC 2021, will be taking you through the Anatomy Hall and the Anatomy Museum.
Welcome to the Anatomy Hall. So this is where the students get to have a hands-on experience on learning about different organs and animal species. And this is where we actually dissect our animals and also learn about bones and the anatomy. In the Anatomy Hall, we have a museum that helps us to see a different perspective of the anatomy, as well as to single out different organs and focal points in the body systems. For example, we have the front leaf here with the innervation of nerves in the muscles. So here, we have the skeletons that help us to see a better perspective of the muscles, the nerves, and the organs, as well as the blood vessels, and how they fit into this whole picture. Why do we actually need to know the skeletal system? That is because we do take radiographs to see any bone fractures, bone abnormalities, and sometimes pathological lesions. And here we have Leonie that will help us view better into that.
Here we have a variety of skeletons that we use during our studies. I know it looks a bit intimidating when you see the skeletons and you can't identify it. So a little tip and trick that we use is that we look at the feet. We have hooves for horses, claws for cattle, sheep and goats, and then paws for dogs. Something that we have different in our anatomy hall, and it's fun to identify, is that we have a camel skeleton. It's unique and fun.
Pathology, which is the study of disease, goes hand in hand with anatomy because we have to know the normal before we can tap into the abnormalities. So for example, we have Tulani here, which will give us an overview of the heart anatomy.
The heart is the central organ of the cardiovascular system. It is composed of the myocardium, which is the muscle of the heart. In general, the shape of the heart resembles a cone. This is the base of the heart, also known as the basis cordis, and the vessels of the blood vessels, they are attached to the base. This is the apex of the heart, also known as the apex cordis. The anatomy of the heart varies among different species. Now I will illustrate how the bovine heart differs from the rest of the species. The bovine heart contains extensive fat, which is whitish in color. And here you can see it actually covers all the vessels which are running along the coronary groove. The aortic arch gives out the brachiocephalic trunk, which is also present in all the species. However, the bovine heart it also contains the left asparagus vein, which is unique to the bovine and the ovine, and absent in the equine and the canine. Moving on to the canine. The canine is oval and contains little or no fat. The aortic arch, it gives off the brachiocephalic artery and the left subclavian artery. Moving on to the equine heart. The equine heart is relatively big as compared to the bovine, and the coronary and the interventricular groove, they contain relatively less fat as compared to the bovine. All in all, this is the equine horses, bovine cattle, ovine sheep, canine dogs.
So for our second example, we have Kayla, who will be giving us an overview of kidneys from different species.
So here we have kidneys from the bovine, ovine, canine, and equine species. And it's important to be able to identify and differentiate which kidneys belong to which species. This can be done using certain appearance-based hints. So we'll start off with the bovine kidney. As you can tell, it has a very lobulated structure and it almost likens to a raspberry. Next we have the ovine and the canine kidneys. These are a lot smaller and bean-shaped. The canine kidney is a lot smaller and bean-shaped, and this is what a regular canine kidney looks like. And it's important to be able to identify and differentiate what the regular looks like to be able to understand and differentiate what the irregular looks like. Last but not least, we have the equine kidneys, which are a lot more complex than the past couple of kidneys. This is due to the fact that they are very asymmetrical in nature. So on the right-hand side, the equine kidney is shaped like a heart, as you can see here. And on the left-hand side, the equine kidney is a lot more pyramidal in shape.
For our third and final example, we have Leishan, who will be giving us an overview of the canine uterus.
We have two examples of the canine uterus, a normal one and one presenting with an abnormality. We'll first take a look at the normal canine uterus. We have your vulva, vestibulum, vagina, cervix, uterine body, uterine horn, and ovary. You can also see the broad ligament present and the bladder. At the vagina-vestibular junction, a hymen forms, and this is a site for potential infection. In terms of fertilization, majority of the action takes place in your uterine horn. This is where the sperm will fertilize the egg. It will form a zygote and eventually develop into a fetus. Once the fetuses are fully developed, the mom will give birth to a litter of puppies. Now that we've identified the normal, we can move on to the abnormal. This is a uterus showing signs of pyometra. During the normal estrous cycle, there's fluctuations of hormones which causes thickening of your endometrium. With excessive thickening, there's excessive tissue, and this is a site for potential bacterial infection. The infection is usually so bad that the animal shows systemic signs, meaning that signs of illness can be seen throughout the body.
Hey guys again, I hope you guys enjoyed the anatomy video. So that's the anatomy hall where you'll be seeing all the bones, as Tulani said, as well as doing your first dissections in second year. So as you can see, I have this little cute pink guy with me. So now we want to go to the pig video, but before we go there, as I'm sitting here in the skills lab, I can just see that the sun is about to set. If there's one thing that I really like about OP, as Prof said, we have the best campus. I always say this, OP has the best sunsets you could ever see. So when you come here, make sure you see one of the sunsets. Enjoy the pig video. Oink.
Hi everyone, my name is Brown Mpali and I'll be taking you on an exciting journey to meet our family of pigs here at Onderstepoort campus. Come through.
Hi everyone, my name is Simpiwe. The facility at Onderstepoort Teaching and Animal Unit is specifically designed such that it resembles a model defined by the South African Pig Welfare Code. The following is the structure at our facility. a boar pen. This is where the boars camp. Dry cell crate for the purpose of artificial insemination or mating. Dry cell crate, mostly used for biostimulation. Farrowing pen, where piglets are kept until weaning at about 21 days. In general, when handling pigs, you try to make sure that you limit long periods of handling, as these can be stressful to the animal. What to do? Handle one pig at a time. Approach the pig from behind. Snout restraint using a rope over the canines of the maxilla, used for procedures such as artificial insemination. What not to do? Do not approach the pig from the front. Catch the pig using the front leg. This is most likely to cause dislocations. Avoid handling animals for long periods.
Pigs are normally moved around for various reasons. This is generally done using pig boards. But before you let the pig out, ensure all gates or doors that could lead to escape are closed. This practice is normally done for the following reasons: for examination, for example, lameness and weighing, or moving the adults in and out of a crate or different pen. For an interesting fact, pigs are actually considered to be the 5th most intelligent animal in the world, even more intelligent than dogs.
As you've all seen so far, there's always something new to learn about animals. Next, we'll be having a video on our Junior Turkey Club.
About Junior Turkey, this is a brilliant initiative. So as our viewers, we encourage you to join Junior Turkey. So you can go on our website and there is a tab there which states that I want to be Junior Turkey. So what's our Junior Turkey? They will provide like an empowerment week around in June. So this empowerment week is a nice time for you guys to join. They will select obviously who's going to take part in the Junior Turkey. And those who take part in the Junior Turkey, they'll get a chance to spend 1 week at the university. So at the university, they'll get empowered in terms of leadership, in terms of school academically, and those who are selected on this platform, I Want to Be a Vet, they will have a chance to come on OP campus. So we'll host them here and have a tour of our lovely campus, and you get a chance to see all our lovely animals which we have, and you get a time to explore all the facilities which we have here on campus. So yeah, thank you and enjoy the video.
The University of Pretoria has implemented the Junior Turkey program in order to assist high school learners in making responsible study and career choices. And as a student, you'll be equipped with the necessary skills to succeed at university. Learners from grade 9 to grade 12 are welcome to join the Junior Turkey program, which prepares you for a successful transition from high school to higher education. Junior Turkey develops important skills in order to better equip learners for the challenges they may face as a student, in their personal capacity as well as professionally. Junior Turkey provides a wide variety of services, such as first-hand information on study and career options. It also includes the development of leadership qualities, study skills, as well as engagement in community projects. The benefits of being a member of Junior Turkey include invitations to Junior Turkey events like the Grade 11 Empowerment Week and the Grade 12 Preparation Conference, guidance with Grade 10 subject choices in your career field, helping you with admission and selection requirements for your chosen program, assisting you in completing your application to study at UP, providing you with many opportunities to develop leadership skills, to expand your communication, organization, computer skills and time management skills, and development of social responsibility, and a variety of enrichment programs that can help you with improving your marks in various subjects. Once you're a first-year UP student, you may join the JT Student Ambassador Society. As a member of the JTSAS, we will equip you with the skills and emotional intelligence to succeed at university, prepare you for a wonderful and balanced student life, help you face any challenges you may experience as a student, such as study methods, develop your leadership skills, and help you thrive at university and enable you to graduate on time. Genetiki will not only help you at university, but also after you graduate and enter the workforce. Third-year UP students, graduates, and postgraduate students are welcome to join the JT alumni, where you will be provided the opportunity to invest in the lives of future JT generations. Contribute your expertise, time, and if you wish, a once-off or monthly donation towards the JT Sustainability Fund. Participate in social development programs, attain personal and professional capabilities that will distinguish you professionally, and establish rewarding friendships with your peers, which will enrich your life. So, how do you become a Genetiki? Download the Genetiki app by visiting genetikiapp.co.za on your web browser. Remember to select the Allow Notifications option. Select the option Add to your home screen and keep an eye on the JT app for notifications. Click on Sign Up and follow the instructions. Make sure to complete the JT registration form by opening the Genetiki tile on the JT app, then selecting the Become a Genetiki option. To find further information, contact us at one of the following Genetiki emails.
For our last session today, we have Prof. Home, who will be answering some questions as well as discussing the academic components of this degree, which is one of the most important components. So yeah, hope you enjoy that.
All right, thank you so much, Taylor. So I have Prof. Home with me now, and we have a few questions that you guys have been asking. Just a reminder to keep asking on the chat box. We will be answering them in this discussion. Okay, so for the first question I have for you, Prof, is how many types of vets do we have?
Okay, thank you. That's an interesting question. When a veterinarian qualifies from OP, we all have the same skills. So we train a general day one veterinarian, as we call it, and the same for veterinary nurses as well. We train a day one veterinary nurse as well. So to start off, we all have the same skills. And then from there, it depends on your career choice. So then there are many different options for, not necessarily for specialization, that might come later, but just for a career interest. And these could include production animals, so you'd be working mostly with farm animals, or horses, or small animals. If you live in a city, then you'd be working mostly with small animals. But there are other options as well. So you could work in government, you could work as a state veterinarian, and then you work with disease control or with import and export, or in abattoirs, where you are responsible for food safety. So those are the different options, and veterinarians play a role in many different fields in life that we are not always aware of. In the case of veterinary nurses as well, the same applies. You can work either in a government department, or you can work in a private practice as a veterinary nurse. And that could also be with different species, depending on your interest and depending on where you end up in your career. So although all vets start at the same level and all veterinarians start at the same level, our careers often pan out in different directions based on what happens along the way. Later on, a possibility is specialization and postgraduate studies. As you said, you're going to do.
Yes, now it's on live, so I have to.
You have to, yes, you're committed now. So that's a possibility as well. For veterinarians, you can specialize. Myself, I'm a specialist veterinarian in bovine herd health, so that was my specialty field. But you could do specializations in many different fields, and also nowadays the so-called super specialists that are specialized in one species and then in a particular discipline within that very small, very specific disciplines also become possible. So there are too many really to mention. In the case of veterinary nursing, with our current 3-year degree program that we now have, postgraduate studies is now also an option. And you can then further your career with that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Prof. I hope we've answered your question. So to go on to the next question, do we need an A level in Cambridge to be accepted into the veterinary program?
For school leavers that come through the Cambridge program, you can either have AS level or A level. Okay. But you cannot have anything prior to that. It's not enough yet. So either AS or A level. And then you have to make sure that you have the correct subject choices. And if you are in AS level or in A level, what we've seen before is that in A levels you often only have to take 3 subjects, but our requirements are that you have to have English, mathematics, and science equivalent, which in the case of A level is physical science or physics as well as chemistry. So then you need to take 4 subjects.
Okay. Okay, that's a lot different from when I was in high school. Okay. Physics and chemistry was one subject. Okay, so the next question is, what should I put as my second choice if I want to get into nursing?
If you want to get into nursing, the second choice is not very important for us. So we do recommend that you can still take a BSc degree as a second option, or you can take any other degree option that is of interest for you. There's no official secondary route into veterinary nursing as we have for veterinary science. For veterinary science, the second choice must be a BSc program, because that's the only alternative route into BVSC. But for BVet nursing, you can take any other. So really anything that you are passionate about, apart from veterinary nursing, of course you should be most passionate about that. But then your second choice should be your second passion.
Okay. And then just this is more of a follow-up question into the previous one. Can I study BVSC if I have a BSc in animal science?
Yes, you can. If you have a BSc in animal science already, then you are eligible to apply for selection into the BVSC program. So all that information, by the way, is on our website. So if you go to up.ac.za and /Faculty of Veterinary Science, you will find the brochure for our intake or for our selection system, and all the information is in there. It's important that you download that brochure and that you read through it very carefully.
Okay. Is the NBT test mandatory before applying?
It used to be, but luckily it's no longer. So this faculty decided a number of years ago to scrap the NBT. It's no more a requirement for entry.
Okay, great. Okay, when do applications open for next year?
The applications for next year are already open. So please go and apply. The applications don't stay open forever, so they do close one of these days. So please go and apply as soon as you can.
Okay. What type of experience or shadowing is required to apply for vet, and how do you show this?
Okay, that's a very important question. So whoever asked that question, good question. You will see in the brochure that I mentioned now that's on the website that there's a whole section on the value-added form. So there's a value-added form for veterinary science and a value-added form for veterinary nursing. They are more or less the same, but they are specific for the profession. And that explains everything. So we do expect people that want to enter the program to do some shadowing before. And the reason for that really is so that you familiarize yourself a little bit more on a personal level with what you are about to enter. So that you are making sure that you are in the correct career option or career choice. That's the one reason, but the other reason is also that it actually gives you a little bit of prior learning, so you get to see what's going on and you hear from the veterinarian or from the veterinary nurse about their daily tasks, and you get a little bit of pre-learning so that when you come to Onderstepoort, you've got some background already. That's really important to us, that you arrive here with a little bit of prior exposure to the profession. It helps you in your learning, especially in the first 2 years. So all the information about the specifics about that is in the brochure, and there's also a form that you can copy and that you can have completed by the veterinarian or veterinary nurse that you are shadowing, and you then upload that with your application, or after your application rather. So first you're going to apply, and then you will receive communication from the university saying that the value-added form has now been opened for you, and then you upload all your documents to confirm the shadowing that you've done. So you indicate on the value-added form which shadowing experiences you've had, and you upload the document as proof. We will then go through all those documents to confirm that what you indicated is actually true with the forms. And you also have to complete a little narrative section where you have to write something about your experience when you were shadowing. That's something that we added recently. Maybe you didn't have that in your day, but it's something that we added now. So you have to write a little, very short paragraph about your experience. We then have a panel of veterinarians that will read through that, and that will grade every narrative, and we'll allocate a score to that according to the feedback that you give us.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, can I apply with my grade 11 results if I'm currently in matric?
Yes. So if you are in matric at the moment, you must apply obviously for the intake 2023, and you use your grade 11 marks. So you simply upload your grade 11 results from your school, and you enter your marks as well into the system. We have a team of people behind the scenes that will go through your school report, and we will make sure that you've entered the correct marks. But mostly we rely on you entering your correct marks, and that will then be used for the selection process.
Okay, perfect. So next up we have a question from Brian, and he's asking, are there any experiences within job shadowing that are specifically important?
Brian, all the experiences are important to us. We previously, up until a few years ago, we required of applicants to have a certain number or to try and obtain as many hours as possible of shadowing. We did away with that for the reason that we found that some applicants spent literally hundreds of hours shadowing, and it was no longer beneficial to them. In fact, you should be studying maths rather. That's very important in our selection system. So we then did away with that, and what we're looking at now is rather at the width of your exposure. So we want to be sure that you've been exposed to many different aspects of the profession, so that you understand what a veterinarian and a veterinary nurse does, and not only limited to, let's say, small animal practice because you may have access to it very easily. We want to be sure that you understand that the veterinarian is about more than only that. And therefore, we do like to see a wide. If you cannot do it, it's fine. You can still apply. But we do look at as wide as possible exposure. That's important to us.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the next question we have is from Suzanne, and she says, is there any extra subject that she needs to take if she applied for BSc Biological Science?
So if you applied for BSc, I'm not sure, Suzanne, if she is already in the BSc program or if she is still at school. She applied for it. She applied for it. No, the brochure, if you go and have a look in the brochure, so from a BSc program, you can apply for a transfer into BVSC. This is not possible for vet nursing. In that case, you can transfer from, well, it is possible, sorry. You can transfer from any program, as I said earlier. But for BVSC, you can only transfer from a BSc program. The specific modules that you are required to take are in the brochure as well. So if you're at the University of Pretoria, we give the specific course codes for the courses that you have to register for.
Okay, thank you. We have a very interesting question. We have Anonymous asking if students can come for a tour at OP campus.
We do occasionally offer that. At the moment, with COVID restrictions, it's been really difficult. So, as we all know, this program, I Want to Be a Vet Professional, used to be a campus-based program, but we could only host about 100 scholars here, which is also limited. Now we can host many more people, which is nice with the online. And as Tulani said earlier, is that with the Empowerment Week, so those guys of you that are joining the Junior Tikkie, you stand a chance to be entered into the Empowerment Week at the University of Pretoria. And if you came through this program, through I Want to Be a Vet Professional, and you go to the Empowerment Week, then on the Friday you will visit our campus and do a campus tour. So if you want to do that, that's the way to do it.
Great, okay. So the next question we have is it possible to study vet nursing part-time while working full-time?
It's not possible. Okay, it's a good question because in some universities overseas that is a possibility. In our program, it's a full-time program. So it's a full-time study program which means you are basically studying for 40 hours a week, like a full-time job, and therefore it's not possible to work part-time. Many of our students do work part-time, but it's then part-time work, like waitering or helping at the university. We offer some opportunities for students as well to act as tutors or to help at the in the hospital at the admin section or at reception. So there are opportunities on campus to do some work, and you can earn a little bit of pocket money that way.
Okay, great. I'm just going to jump to this question quickly. It's based on the hospital. So someone is asking, is the hospital at Onderstepoort public or private?
That's a very interesting question, actually, because if you compare our faculty to a medical faculty, medical faculties in South Africa are all linked to an academic hospital. And that academic hospital is a government hospital. So it's a public hospital. In our case, the hospital belongs to the university, which is a bit different from the medical schools. All the staff that work in the hospital, in the Onderstepoort Academic Hospital, are university staff. They're not government employees. So essentially, it's a university hospital. It's kind of in between, I should say. Yeah. But it's unique and different from the human medicine setup.
Okay, thank you for that. What are the demands for reptile vets?
What are the demands for reptile vets? That's an interesting question. And so we're talking about exotics. So we call it exotics. It's not only reptiles, because exotic veterinarians work with a number of different species. It's quite an exciting field. In our hospital here, we've got an exotics clinic. Dr. Roxanne works there. So she's the veterinarian in that. Well, there are actually 2 veterinarians and some nurses working there. And our students also can rotate through that clinic. The demand is increasing. It's been slowly increasing, and probably in future it will continue to increase for exotics. And it seems to be linked to urbanization. So as the community or the population becomes more urbanized, there's an increased demand for exotic pet medicine.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We just have a few more questions left. Just a reminder, if you do have questions, just post them in the chat box so that we can answer them. Okay, so the next question we have is, how and where do you convert your Cambridge marks to apply for BVSC?
So if you have a Cambridge A levels or AS levels, you simply apply and you upload those. So on the application system, it will be indicated as an option for your matric or your equivalent of a matric, and then you upload it there. So it's all within the UP application system. It's automated. The way that we then compare your results to other students from other schooling systems, it's all explained in the brochure. There's a table in the brochure that explains how we do the benchmarking between different matric ways of matric, and Cambridge falls in the category of international schooling systems. And that's then done afterwards, so after your application. So you first apply, indicate that you're in a Cambridge system, and then you indicate your scores accordingly.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So we have Yannicka asking, why is Onderstepoort the only university where you can study vet?
Yannicka, that is maybe a historic reason. So maybe I must give a little bit of the history of Onderstepoort. We are here just about 15 kilometers north of Pretoria, central of Pretoria town. And Onderstepoort was established already in 1908, so more than a century ago, by Sir Arnold Tyler. He was the founder of Onderstepoort and also the first dean of the faculty. The faculty was started in 1920, so we had our centenary 2 years ago. But Onderstepoort as an establishment was already started in 1908 and first started as a laboratory to combat diseases that are causing severe losses to farmers and so on. And that work then progressed into the establishment of the faculty. So the faculty over years then has grown and has grown to become quite an international recognized entity. together with the research facility that is just across the road from the faculty. We are now independent units at Onderstepoort, and the faculty has grown to the extent that it has been able to supply the number of veterinarians that the country requires over the years. Now, in the last few years, we've increased our intake for veterinary science and also our intake for veterinary nursing because there's an increased demand for the professions in South Africa. And we are now graduating around about 170 veterinarians in a year and between 30 and 50 veterinary nurses in a year. At the moment, there's a shortage of veterinarians internationally, not only in South Africa. You might have seen some information in the media recently about the shortage of veterinarians in South Africa. This is an international trend, though. It's not only in South Africa. There's also a shortage in Australia. There's a shortage in the USA. There's a shortage in Asia. There's a general shortage. And whereas it's not a good thing for the community if there's not enough vets, the good news for you as a veterinary student is that you will get a job very easily. Because there's a high demand for veterinarians and for veterinary nurses at the moment. And our graduation numbers for veterinary science only increased to 170 fairly recently. So it'll take a few years for that shortage to be addressed.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Okay, by when must the value-added form be submitted?
So all that information again is in the brochure, and you can go and have a look at the dates there. So 1 month after the closing of the applications, the value-added form also closes. Okay. So we give an extra month basically to finish it. If you've started to complete the value-added form and you haven't finished it by the closing date, we will close it for you, and we will take what you've submitted up to that point. Because we cannot wait after that, then we have to do selection.
Okay. There's a question here about an extended program.
Yes, okay. So there's an extended program through the Mamelodi campus of the University of Pretoria. And all the information again is in the brochure that explains the selection process for that. So you can enter a BSc extended program. At this stage, we don't have a unique extended program for veterinary science or for veterinary nursing. So you enter the BSc extended program, and through that, you then become selected into the BVSc program specifically.
Okay. Great. Does the vet nursing training mainly entail working with small animals, or do you get training working with wildlife as well, for example?
So just like veterinary science, the veterinary nursing program is also multi-species. So you get trained in all the different species, including wildlife. And you do clinical training in our hospital in all the different clinics. So you work with horses, you work with cattle, you work with sheep, you work with dogs, cats, with exotics, and with wildlife.
Okay. What are your acceptance rates for international students?
So you will see in the brochure the number of students that we select from the international category. And we've got a number of students, more or less 10% of our students at OP are international students, and mostly from SADC countries, so from our neighboring countries. We do get some students also applying from further away, but it's a fairly small number. So it's not more than 10%. The acceptance rate, that means that the number that you're referring to, the number of students that we accept compared to the number that have applied. And that is usually fairly low, so we get a lot of applications every year. In the last 2 years since COVID, we haven't had as many applications of international students because of the difficulty of traveling. But usually we get a lot of applications, and we're quite selective, so we only take a fixed number of international students. Generally speaking, we get, for every student that is successful in applying, we get about 4 or 5 others that have applied. So the general acceptance rate is about 20%.
Okay, interesting.
So it's quite competitive.
Yeah. How long is the BVSc course?
The BVSc course is 6 years. So the first year is offered on the Hatfield campus and is similar to a BSc. So it's generic subjects that you do: mathematics, physics, chemistry, and a number of animal science related subjects as well. And in the second year, you come to the Onderstepoort campus, and then you do the rest of the 5 years here. The last 3 semesters, so the last year and a half, is clinical training, and that is all done then within our hospital as well as within our satellite facilities. So we've got satellite facilities at Mamelodi campus. We've got a clinic there, and then also at the Slivukani Clinic, which is near the Orpen Gate of the Kruger National Park. And that's quite a unique setup because it's a community that lives right next to the Kruger Park. So there is what we call an interface between wildlife, domestic animals like cattle and sheep and goats in particular, and people who all live in the same community and all get sometimes a bit mixed up because sometimes some of the animals escape out of the Kruger National Park and they get in contact with the domestic animals and with people. So that's a very interesting community and a very interesting place for students to get quite a unique exposure. So our students really enjoy that clinic, and they generally spend 2 weeks working in the Slivukani Clinic, where they get real cases that they have to deal with, diseases that animals have been exposed to, that they have to treat, and so on, together with a veterinarian.
Okay. Thank you. Are you still able to apply if you weren't able to do any job shadowing?
Yes, you are able to apply, and you can indicate in the value-added form that you were not able to. It's not a problem. You will still be considered for selection. It's not a requirement for selection. So our requirements for being on the list for selection is that you have to have an APS of 35 minimum for BVSC and 28 for veterinary nursing. And then there are minimum requirements for different subjects as well at school. So English, mathematics, and physical sciences. And for BVSC, they have to be a minimum at 60%. And for veterinary nursing, they have to be minimum at 50%. In the case of veterinary nursing, we've changed our rules recently so that you now don't necessarily have to have physical sciences. You can also have life sciences or biology at school, and you will then still be considered.
Okay. Do we study in English, Afrikaans, or a mixture?
The University of Pretoria is an English university, English teaching university, and it's been like that for a number of years. In fact, this faculty, because we are the only faculty in South Africa, has been an English faculty for decades now. So all teaching and assessment is done in English.
Okay. So we have a question here from Jenna asking if you could please explain how to attend the Empowerment Week if you're already part of Junior Tukkie.
Okay, if you're already part, because that's the first step, become a Junior Tukkie. And if you're already part, you can have a look on the Junior Tukkie website and go and find the Empowerment Week and then enroll for it there. If you can't find the information, there is a Contact Us button, and you can write to the Junior Tukkie office and you can ask for assistance.
Okay, so this is one of the questions I missed from earlier. Sorry, Karabo. How long does a cow live?
Is it Karabo?
Yes.
Karabo, okay, that's an interesting question because we do see some differences between the different breeds. If I start at the shortest, then we must start with dairy cows. This is a mixed purpose breed, so that would be dairy and beef. But the dairy cow that's used, such as a Holstein, for instance, they don't live that long. They're very big animals. They can weigh up to 800 kilograms. Big, heavy animals that produce a lot of milk every day, and they generally don't live that long. Usually they would live for about 4 or 5 or 6 years. In the case of beef animals, they live much longer. And if you take one of our local breeds, like the Nguni, for instance, which our students get exposed to quite a bit, they can live up to 20 years. And they can still be productive, so they can still produce calves up to the age of 20 years, which is amazing.
Yeah. Sure, okay. So the next question we have is on the value-added form under animal experience. You have to observe an animal being slaughtered. Is this applicable to wildlife or only for production animals?
No, it's not. It's not excluding wildlife. So we want you to experience the slaughter process so that you understand that the veterinarians, and by the way, this only applies to veterinary science. It does not apply to veterinary nursing because veterinary nurses don't work in that environment. But veterinarians work in an abattoir environment to do meat inspections, and we want to make sure that you have that exposure up front so that you understand that this is part of the job. And if you don't like it, then maybe this is not the correct career option for you. So that's why we want you to have that exposure. Everybody doesn't like it, but at least you must have the exposure that you realize that it is part of the job. And it's part of the course as well, that you will get trained in abattoir meat inspections and veterinary public health. And that's why that is a requirement. But it doesn't matter if your experience is in a poultry abattoir with chickens, for instance, or in a beef abattoir, or in a pig abattoir, or even with wildlife, that's fine.
Okay. We have a question here from Kaylin asking, how do I apply for residence when studying at Onderstepoort?
Oh goodness, don't you know the answer? When you apply, you indicate on your application that you are also applying for residence. If you are applying for veterinary nursing, for instance, then your first year is already at the OP campus. When you apply for veterinary science, your first year is at Hatfield campus, and then you will be placed into a residence at Hatfield campus. And when you transfer to the second year at OP, you will be automatically transferred to the OP residence, which is a wonderful place. Yes. But if you apply for veterinary nursing and you indicate, it depends on capacity. By the way, we have the largest residence in the University of Pretoria. We have about 700 and something beds, which is really a big residence. It's a wonderful place. It's called the OP Village. And if you apply for veterinary nursing, you indicate on your application that you're applying for residence as well. Then you will be considered for placement at OP Village.
Okay, thank you so much for that. What can you expect in your first year of vet?
In your first year of veterinary science, you can expect to be on Hatfield campus, which is also a nice place, let me say that. Especially if you come from the countryside, it's interesting to come to Hatfield because it's in the city. You get a little bit of the exposure to the city lights and everything that goes with that. So it's also a good student life. In terms of the academic program, you will be doing a generic BSc program. Although you will be in the BVSc program with us, you will do subjects with other students that are doing BSc, as well as medicine and dentistry. All the students do the same generic program in the first year.
Okay. I have a question here from Annalise. She's saying that I happen to choose vet science as well as, vet science as a first choice and vet nursing as a second choice. Will this affect her application?
Annalise, the only way that it will affect your application is that it might affect your application for veterinary nursing if you don't indicate that as a first choice. It will not affect your application for veterinary science. In the case of veterinary science, we don't look at the choice. So we simply rank all the candidates that have applied, whether that's first choice or second choice, according to your academics and your value-added form, and then we take the top, however many is available in that category. In the case of veterinary nursing, we do consider the choice because we want to make sure that the students that enter the veterinary nursing program really want to become a veterinary nurse and that they understand what the profession is about and that that's their first choice, preferably. It doesn't mean that you will not be selected for it, but it may put you at an advantage if you indicate veterinary nursing as a first choice, if that's what you want to do.
Okay. Can you do job shadowing at the hospital? I think our Onderstepoort hospital here.
People often ask us that, and the answer is no. You cannot do job shadowing at our hospital, and the reason is simply that we've got a lot of students on this campus, and the hospital is really for our students. It's an academic hospital, which means we simply do not have space to allow shadowing for school leavers as well.
Okay, thank you. Will additional experience with animals count in your favor? For example, working with an equine dentist and having proof of the experience.
In terms of shadowing, if it's a veterinarian, if you're applying for veterinary science, it will contribute. If it's not a veterinarian, it will not be considered for shadowing. So It will definitely make a contribution to your exposure and your understanding of what the profession is about. But in terms of the shadowing component of the value-added form, we will not consider that because we want to be sure that you shadow a veterinarian that's registered with the South African Veterinary Council, so that the experience that you have is that of the profession that you want to enter. So if you are shadowing another professional person that's a paraveterinarian or a paraprofessional or some other kind of profession, we don't consider that as shadowing for veterinary science or for veterinary nursing. The same applies for both our programs. So if you are entering the veterinary nursing program and you've shadowed a veterinarian, we don't consider that. We only consider shadowing of a veterinary nurse. Because the two professions, although they work hand in hand next to each other, they are different. And we want to be sure that you understand what your profession is about. And therefore, the shadowing must be with that specific profession.
Okay, great. So there's a few questions that I have that are basically asking the same thing. I'm just going to ask it in one question. What is the quota system with regulations for BVSC?
That's all explained in the brochure in quite a lot of detail. So in the brochure, you will see tables that will indicate exactly what the different quotas for different categories are. So there are quotas for school leavers, there are quotas for university transfers from different stages. So first year transfer into the second year. There's a quota for later BSc transfers into our program. There's a quota for postgraduates, so people who have already got a BSc degree. And then for international students. It's all explained in a lot of detail, so the numbers are all there. For BVSC, you will see that the total number eventually adds up to 190, and for veterinary nursing, it all adds up to 50. So that's the total that we take into the program. In the case of BVSC, that's the total for first year and second year intake combined, is 190. So for school leavers, we take 50 students from the open category and 50 students from the designated groups category. That's 100 school leavers. That's the biggest group. And then the rest are made up of university transfers.
Okay, great. We have a question from Erica asking, why is biology not compulsory?
Erica, biology is not compulsory because we will teach you the biology at university again. So in the first year, you will do biology as a module or a subject as well. And we do it in a little bit more detail. I would say biology would still help you. Yes. I don't know, did you have biology at school?
Yes, I did.
Did it help you?
Yes.
Okay, well, there you are.
A lot, yeah.
I also had biology at school and it also helped me. But we don't have that as a requirement because the way that we chose the subjects that we require is mostly determined by a study that we did to see which subjects at school predict your success at university in the BVSC program. And those were mainly physical sciences and mathematics, and then to a lesser degree English. And because our teaching is in English, that's an important requirement. Also, for a veterinarian and for a veterinary nurse, communication skills is extremely important. It's one of the make or break skills when you're in practice, and therefore language is very important. So for the rest, we do actually like our students to have a diverse background. We think that it adds value to our community at Onderstepoort if some have done music, others have done art, others have done technical subjects, others have done additional languages. I think that's wonderful if we get that mixture of different backgrounds into our community. Just imagine if we all took exactly the same school subjects and then we study in the same program. That would be extremely boring. Yes, so at least we bring more diversity, which is great.
Okay. So we have a question here from Peter. He's asking, will you receive credits or exceptions if you have completed an animal health diploma at UNISA?
No, unlikely. You may get some credits for a couple of subjects in the BVSC program. In particular, in the second year, I've seen that there are some of the subjects that we offer that we do give credit for that specific program. But because the one that Peter is referring to is a diploma program, it's not the BSc. So at UNISA, they offer a BSc as well as a diploma in animal health. And with the BSc, you're more likely to get credits. But it's quite limited. It's only for a small component because the two programs differ quite a lot.
Okay. So we have a question here asking, is it compulsory to work with reptiles such as snakes?
Good question. Don't know who asked the question. It's an interesting question.
It is serpine.
Serpine.
Yeah.
Okay. Serpine, it's not compulsory. Okay, so the exotics program at Onderstepoort is not compulsory. It forms part of the elective in small animal and exotics, which is only presented right at the end of the program. So during your clinical training, if you're in the veterinary program, you will get to choose from a number of different electives. And that happens in your clinical training. So when you rotate through the different clinics in our academic hospital, depending on the elective, you will have a slightly different mix of clinical exposure. And if you're interested in exotics, you can choose the small animal and exotic elective, and then you will get an opportunity to go to that clinic. If you're in a different elective, you can still take that as an additional elective. It's possible, but it's not compulsory.
Okay. So one of the questions I missed earlier again is, what is the APS score needed for a veterinary surgeon?
For vet science, the minimum APS is 35.
Okay.
Yes, that's a minimum. It doesn't mean that you will be selected with a 35. I think that's important to mention. We do see generally that the average APS of students, school leavers that enter our program is around about 40. That's the average. That means many of the applicants are at the 42 and some are at the 36 and very few are at the 35. It depends on your specific score in mathematics mostly, because mathematics contributes the most. So if you have a very high mathematics score but you have another subject that's maybe a little bit weaker, that doesn't contribute to our selection, you could still enter with a slightly lower APS, it's possible. But generally speaking, we see that our students entering are around about 40 on average.
Okay, great. There's only a few questions left, so I just want to remind you, if you do have questions, to just post them now, just so we can go through them. Okay, so we have another question asking, how do you differentiate between a dairy cow and a meat cow?
I must call the students to answer the question. Don't you want to try?
Not really.
No, it's a wonderful question. I love questions like that. So you differentiate mostly on how they are built, what they look like. So a beef animal is clearly constructed for meat production, so they've got nice big muscles, and they have good conformation for a good carcass. In the case of a dairy cow, they tend to look a little bit thinner. They look a little bit slimmer. They tend to have a bigger udder because that's where the milk's coming from. And they are quite tall animals, the Holsteins in particular. The Jerseys, which is a fantastic dairy breed, also are smaller, okay, but they still have the conformation of a dairy cow. So they look a little bit almost as if they are skinny, if I can put it that way. So they don't have the same beefy muscled conformation, and they tend to have a bigger udder.
Okay, great. I hope that question comes up in our exam, because now I know the answer. Okay, so for a person already doing the diploma in animal health, what are the required levels for the modules that they take?
If you're already in animal health, in the diploma, if you're in the animal health diploma, then you cannot apply for a transfer directly to BVSC. You need to then apply for entering a BSc program first. So then you need to consult with the BSc faculties, whether that's at UP or at a different university. And you first need to enter a BSc program and then apply for a transfer from there. As I said earlier, for BVSC, we are very specific with transferring students that you can only transfer for BVSC. We're very specific for veterinary science that you can only transfer from a BSc program, not from a diploma program.
Okay. So I have a question here asking, if you have experience on a game range, how do I pronounce that word? Ranch, without a vet, where do you add that experience?
So there's a separate section in the value-added form on your animal experience. And that is not shadowing. So animal experience is your experience with animals in general. So if you're from a farm, typically you've got a lot of experience with animals because let's say you come from a dairy farm, then you would have worked with the dairy animals and so on. Or if you're from a game farm, you've had that exposure. Or if you are from a beef family with beef cattle, then you've had a lot of experience with that. So that's what the animal experience section is for, and you can indicate it there.
Okay.
But not for shadowing, so that it doesn't contribute to the shadowing section.
Okay. Okay. So we have a question here from Anonymous asking, are there any bursaries available to study vet nursing?
Yes, there are bursaries available for vet nursing, and I think that there will be an exciting announcement from the HWCTA, that's the Health and Welfare Sector Education and Training Agency of government, that will be done on Monday. So,
perfect timing.
Yes, perfect timing. So please go and have a look at that on media, and you will see it there. Our dean will also present at that meeting, and there's going to be some announcements there about bursaries specifically for veterinary science and veterinary nursing. Generally speaking, we do have sufficient bursaries to assist students that are in need, but you need to apply. So on your application, you need to indicate that you're applying for financial assistance as well. And then either through the formal NSFAS system or through an HWCTA bursary or through other bursaries that we have available, we are generally able to assist most people that require financial aid.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so on the application form, this is a question from Anonymous as well. Is there a preferred residence that they should choose? I think this is for first year because they mentioned Tux Village.
Yes, it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter. You can stay in any of the residences on the Hatfield campus or Hillcrest campus. It doesn't matter. It's up to you, really. Preference.
Okay. The next question is, how does the vet nursing degree compare to animal health tech offered by UNISA? Is the scope different?
Very, very good question. Who asked the question?
It is anonymous.
Anonymous. Excellent question. Okay. So these are two different veterinary paraprofessional or para-veterinary professions. Veterinary nursing and animal health technician. They're both recognized by the South African Veterinary Council, and they're both paraprofessionals, which means that they work together with the veterinarian. The scope is quite similar and slightly different only. Generally speaking, veterinary nursing works more with clinical cases, generally speaking, so they would more be assisting a veterinarian on clinical cases, so patient care and so on. And in the case of animal health technicians, generally speaking, they work more with disease control. So they tend to be more involved in the public sector, in the state veterinary sector, where they will be the hands of the veterinarian, extension of the veterinarian. They will be going out to farms to do disease surveillance and testing. And they do some clinical work as well while they're there. So they do get some training in clinical work as well, but the emphasis is more on disease control. And in the case of veterinary nursing, the emphasis is more on nursing, so on care, on patient care.
Okay. Okay, so how much does AP Maths contribute? For example, if you're studying it at a higher level?
AP Maths is a wonderful thing. It's challenging. It's great. I think it's fantastic for brain development if you're still in school, but it's not considered in our selection system. And the reason is that everybody doesn't have access to AP Maths, so it would be very unfair of the university to require that as a selection criteria. So some schools offer AP Maths. In some cases, some of the kids are able to take it as an extracurricular subject as well. But many schools don't offer it, and especially in rural areas, people don't have access to that, so we don't require it. In fact, we do actually, from our point of view, from the faculty's point of view, we really try to attract scholars that come from rural areas because there's a great need for veterinarians to go back to rural areas and to make a contribution to the communities there where you come from. And we therefore don't want to create any system that will disadvantage people from rural backgrounds.
Okay. So the next question we have says, for religious reasons, I'd prefer not to work with pigs, but I don't mind if I have to. Would it be compulsory?
Yes, and that's a good question again. And I think that causes a dilemma for some people depending on your religion. It's a requirement within the curriculum. So it's good, who's that? Zara. Okay, it's an excellent question. And it's good to ask. And let me say from our experience so far, what we've seen with students is that they have the same attitude, which is good. It's a positive attitude, that you're saying that you wouldn't like to do that for religious reasons, but if you have to, you will do it. And what that means or how that practically plays out is that you will do it during your course because it's a requirement. And we are required to train all our students to the same day one competency standard. After that, it's up to you. Once you're a veterinarian, you can say, no, thank you, I'm not going to work with these species, with dogs or with pigs or with snakes or whatever because I don't like it. It's up to you then. Then it's up to you, and if you're employed by somebody and you can make a deal with your employer, no problem. But during your course, there are certain requirements, and you need to be able to handle the animals and do certain basic things with them, and that applies to all the students.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So the next one is, what vaccinations do you advise vet students to get?
Oh, that's a great question again.
Yes.
Okay. In fact, it's not just what we advise, it's a requirement for all our students to be vaccinated for rabies. Because it's a risk in our professions, in veterinary nursing as well as in veterinary science, that you might get exposed to rabies. And because rabies is such a fatal disease, it's a requirement. So all our students have to be vaccinated for rabies very specifically. Other recommendations will be up to you. There are no real other vaccines that we recommend, but rabies is compulsory. And by the way, because our students are vaccinated for rabies, it means that they have strong immunity against rabies from the vaccine. And that means also that they can make a contribution to society by donating their plasma, which can be used for treatment of rabies cases. And therefore, we have a blood donation station on campus here permanently, run by the South African National Blood Service, and they collect plasma from students that have been vaccinated that want to give something back to the community. So we have probably the highest concentration of people vaccinated against rabies in the country.
Okay, so the next question we have is from Karen, and she's asking how many electives are there during clinics?
Okay, so we offer 6 different electives, 5+1. There's one that we added now very recently. And the electives are small animal and exotic practice. So that's your typical city practice that you will deal mostly with dogs and cats and exotic animals. The next one is rural veterinary practice and wildlife. And that's the typical rural practice that will deal with everything, with companion animals, so with dogs and cats, and also with horses, and also with the production animals, so cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, poultry, etc. And then also wildlife is part of that. So that's rural. And then the next one is intensive animal production. So those are the vets that work in the intensive animal production sector, such as the poultry sector, where you have intensive poultry houses, pigs as well, which are managed in a similar way, dairies that are managed in a similar way, and feedlots as well. So that's the kind of work that you do in intensive. And then the next one is state veterinary practice and veterinary public health. And that's the sector where you work either in disease control as a state veterinarian that works with different controlled diseases, or with import and exportation, or with veterinary public health, so in abattoir setups, or with milk hygiene. So that's the 4th one. Which one am I? Oh, equine practice. Equine practice, it's a smaller elective, so we generally take about 15 to 20 students in that elective, and they are focused really on the horse industry. So they spend a bit more time in our equine clinic, and they also get us a few privileges in the clinic, so they can do a few more things compared to the other students. And then the last one is a new one that we've added now, that's called interdisciplinary practice. And that's really for somebody who is going to go into a practice that goes slightly outside of the veterinary profession. So maybe something with technology, or something that's even with law, something that is interdisciplinary. It's a new thing that we're only starting this year, and at this stage we only have 2 students in that program. But I'm sure in future it will grow.
Okay, can I do a postgrad diploma in vet if I already have a BSc in animal science?
Yes, you can. If you have a BSc in animal science or any other BSc degree, you can enter one of our postgraduate programs as well. And that could be a postgrad diploma if you have a 3-year BSc. If you have a 4-year BSc, such as a BSc in animal science, you can enter at the master's level in our faculty as well. It's possible.
Okay, so we just have 2 more questions left. The second last one is, what are the pass rates required in the BSc program for selection?
The marks rather than pass rate probably is what is meant there. This is difficult to answer because it varies from year to year. But what I can tell you is that the quotas that we mentioned earlier for transferring students from BSc into BVSc are really competitive. And we see that those students score very high marks in order to be selected for transfer into the BVSc. So there are no minimum requirements except that you have to pass all your modules. So we will not accept a student for transfer if they failed any of their modules. But then after that, it depends on the rest of the students applying because they're competing for entry into our program.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to take the last question now. It says, does the school you come from have any advantages or disadvantages, for example, IEB schools compared to public schools?
If you go and look at our brochure, you will see that we have fine-tuned that now to try and make it as fair as possible for all applicants. So if you're from an IEB school or from a Cambridge school, and IEB and National Senior Certificate are the same. So maybe I misunderstood. So IEB and National Senior Certificate are in one category, and they are all considered to be at the same level. But if you're in a Cambridge system or in another alternative schooling system, then you fall into a different category where they are benchmarked using a specific table that's in the brochure. But IEB and NSC are all in one category.
Okay, great. That's all the questions we have for today. Prof, are there any comments from your side?
We'd better run that we don't miss the beautiful sunset. It's,
yes,
it's almost with
we can't
us now.
disappoint Naishi with missing the sunset. We have to go and watch the sunset.
And we'll see you all tomorrow.
Yes, thank you so much for joining. We will see you guys tomorrow at 11.
Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope you enjoyed our event. So I know you've been all waiting for the voucher. So to stand a chance to win, you have to simply do a simple task. So that is entering the voucher entry, and there you fill in your details. Then you put in this following code, which is 44721. 44721. So we see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.